All right, so we're here with module 4, and in this module, our assignment is to create a to-do list app. And basically, we're going to use a state array, so an array that's declared as a state variable, so it's bound to a control on the page using SwiftUI, and that will allow us to dynamically update that list as we add and remove items. This is a surprisingly easy app to create. Now keep in mind that we're not storing the data, so every time we exit the app, it's just going to reset back to the original 3 tasks, which isn't actually very useful. Later on down the road, we will learn how to store this data and actually make it more useful. So for this, we're going to create a new project, and the project type is going to be an app, and we will call this A4 underscore to do. Actually, let's get rid of the underscore. To do list. Let's just do it like that. And I will save this right on my desktop as I do. And I'm going to first get rid of everything inside the body in that content view because we don't need any of that. And we can get rid of all this stuff too. And now we're left with just our code. So the first thing we're going to do is inside the struct for content view, I'm going to declare 2 state variables, and one is going to be state private variable, and I'm going to say tasks. We'll call that, and this will be our array. So I'm going to declare that as an array, and I'm going to go ahead and put some tasks in there. Task 1, all as strings, task 2, and task 3. And we'll create one more state variable, and this one is just going to be an empty string. So we're going to say state private variable, and we'll call that text new task. This will be the variable that contains the text for our new task, and we'll bind that to a control on the page as well in just a minute. Okay, so let's create inside the body here a vertical stack. So we'll start with the V stack, and inside that V stack, we're going to start out with some text. We'll call it to do list. This is going to be our sort of page heading. So we'll go font is going to be large title, and foreground color, not foreground color is going to be blue, and let's give it some padding. So far so good. And that's the first thing inside of our V stack. Next, we're going to place something called a navigation view. And navigation view, later on, we're going to use that to actually navigate to subpages of our app. But for now, it's just going to be a quick and easy container for our list. So navigation view, if you spell it correctly, navigation view, and inside that, we're going to have a list, and that list is going to contain a for each loop. And we don't need these here, so let's get rid of those extra spaces. But inside that list, we're going to embed a for each. So we're going to say for each, and the variable that we're going to iterate over is this tasks variable. So we're going to say for each tasks, and we're going to have it assign an ID based on the value of each task. And basically, I know this is throwing an error because I'm not done yet, but I want to stop and explain this for a second. This basically says that the ID for each task is going to be the value of each task. And the plus side of that is that it's really easy. The downside of that is that if I have a task, another task that I try to add named the exact same thing as a task that already exists, I'm going to run into some problems. So That's a limitation there. And there is another way to assign a numeric ID that's sort of behind the scenes, but we're not going to do that right now. We're going to keep it pretty simple. So what I'm going to do here is continue on with my for each, and for each task here, I'm going to write the task. Oops, forgot one more thing here. Task in. So basically what I'm saying is for each one of these items in tasks, I'm going to give it an ID of its own value, and then I'm going to call it task. And then I'm going to use that to write a text field in a list called task. And you can see here, there is my list of tasks. Okay, so far so good. That's all I'm going to do in the navigation view for now. We'll come back to that in a little bit and add a little bit more, but below that, I'm going to add a text field. And the sample text in there is going to be new task. And we're going to bind that to the text new task variable. Okay. Now I want to take that parentheses and move that over to here so I don't get an error. And you can see it appears down here. We're going to adjust that in just a moment here. We're going to add some padding. And we're going to add a text field style. And we're just going to say rounded border on that one. Okay, so now you can see with the padding and the rounded border, we're looking a little bit better. And below that, we need to add a button. A button, and we're going to say add task. And that button is going to have a button style of bordered prominent, which makes it the main color. Oops, don't need that extra quote in there. Okay, so that makes it the prominent blue color. That's the accent color for the button by default. So there we go. Easy enough. And inside that button, we've got to give it an action. So the first thing I want to do is I want to take whatever's in this and add it to this list. So all I have to do to that is say tasks, oops, not tasks, tasks dot append. Okay, so I'm saying I'm going to add to this, and what I'm going to add to it is whatever's in text new task. And then once I do that, I want to clear this out so this is empty. So we're going to say text new task equals empty string. So let's give this a shot and see how it's working so far. Task 4. Okay, so there it is. That's nice. Now for a to-do list, obviously I want to be able to delete them. And this is surprisingly easy using a list with the navigation view. And all I need to do is add on the onDelete action here for each list item. And I'm going to say onDelete, don't need the parentheses here, but I'm going to use the curly brace, and index set in. And the reason I have index set in right here is because what that does is provides me, it returns the ID, remember this? It returns the ID to this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that ID to remove that index, the index of the item that I'm returning. And believe it or not, that allows me to now delete, and I can add items as well. And then I can delete them by swiping and deleting. And that is a native iOS interaction. And that's why it's so easy. So using those native interactions, this becomes a pretty easy thing to build. And that is how you build assignment 4 for our class.